Asiimwe, CPA. I'm the General Secretary of Uganda Co-operative Alliance. Uganda Co-operative Alliance is the umbrella body or the apex body for all registered cooperative societies in the country. And this is a legal mandate. It has a legal mandate created by Act of Parliament in 1991. But Uganda Co-operative Alliance literally was formed in 1961. And then in 1991, Parliament recognized it as an apex body and gave it a legal mandate. So one of the mandates of UCA is to carry out arbitration. In the case of any disputes within the cooperatives, then Uganda Co-operative Alliance is mandated to handle those disputes. That is Section 73 of the Cooperative Societies Act, Cap 112. Then Uganda Co-operative Alliance is also mandated to carry out capacity building. Section 29 of the same law, the Cooperative Societies Act, Cap 112, mentions that the board of Uganda Cooperative Alliance shall engage government on matters of policy relating to the cooperative movement. And again it says, Part B, that the Uganda Cooperative Alliance shall represent cooperatives. Now, the last one is almost near last, is resource mobilization. That's what Uganda Cooperative. So ideally, those are the roles of Uganda Cooperative Alliance. And when you talk about cooperatives in Uganda, possibly I can begin with the structure. When individuals come together, they form a primary society. When the primary society is a minimum of 2, the other one is the minimum is 30. 30 individuals, like you are the media people, you are farmers, you are teachers, you are soldiers, whichever profession, you come together, a minimum of 30 you form a primary society, and a minimum of 2 primary societies form secondary societies, and then secondary societies, when they come together, they form tertiary. And then when you combine the tertiary cooperative unions and then secondary unions, you form Uganda Cooperative Alliance, which sits on top as an apex body. So here when we talk of Uganda Cooperative Alliance, yes, it is the overall for all cooperatives. Anything that has the word cooperative falls under us. But the membership are secondary and tertiary. Talk an example here, we are in Acholi. Talk about East Acholi, that's a union. West Acholi, Middle North, Lango Cooperative Union. You go to West Nile Cooperative Union, South West Nile, Banyankole Kweterana, Wamara, Bugisu, Sebei, all those unions, they are the ones that come together to form Uganda Cooperative Alliance. Now, we all know as Ugandans that at one time, this country was blessed with very strong cooperatives. The unions that they were into coffee, cotton, tea, produce, transport, banking, name them. You can imagine by 1961, because they were very strong, that's when they formed the apex body, Uganda Cooperative Alliance. By 1964, they formed the bank, the cooperative bank. That was a time when they were very strong. Government realized that they needed to form, to support cooperative education, and they established a cooperative college at Bukarasa that later went to Chigumba in 1974. By 1965, cooperatives only dealing in crops, that is coffee, cotton, like that, they had a net worth of 325,311,500 Uganda shillings. This was a very big percentage in terms of our national budget. So it means ideally that the economy of this country was in the hands of cooperatives, and hence the local content had control over the economy. You can't imagine before independence, cooperatives owned 14 gineries and 7 coffee churning works. So you can imagine by then. Then they were controlling 90% and 60% of coffee, both Arabica and Robusta. So they were giants. That was the time when you could talk of West Acholi, East Acholi, Lango Cooperative Union. And of course, once the cooperative unions are very strong, then you don't talk about poverty. Poverty was just a story. People didn't know it. And that is when Ugandans went for education. Cooperatives constructed schools. They supported very many activities within communities because they were very strong. They were exporting cotton. They were even taking cotton to Jinja. And that was the time when Ugandans were putting on cotton cloth. Unlike today, when we are going to buy second-hand clothes for the dead, wino, and yet we produce cotton. To the extent that you produce cotton, but you cannot put on a cotton shirt because it's very expensive. So that was the time when cooperatives were very strong. However, problems came in, especially regarding the enactment of the 1970 Cooperative Societies Act that took away the autonomy and independence. Because cooperatives, for the viewers and listeners, cooperatives must be autonomous and independent. So the moment you make a law that takes away the autonomy and independence of these cooperatives, automatically they collapse. So that enactment was taking away that autonomy, and even to this extent, a minister would even appoint boards and secretary managers, and now these cooperatives became like political pillars. And so that was the beginning of the collapse, like you have asked. 1970 Cooperative Societies Act. Then time for wars came in. 1979, 81, 86. Of course, cooperatives were very strong. They had a lot of assets. Then they were never spared. They were looted. Their vehicles were intercepted and taken. Their machinery destroyed and stolen. Their stock intercepted. All that. So they lost a lot. Prominent farmers died. Their gardens were destroyed. So that was, so for people who want to know why cooperatives collapsed, that was it. Then as they were now trying to revive, the structured adjustment program comes in 1990s. And that one put the last nail in the coffin, because now the structured adjustment program was now promoting capitalism. And now capitalism cannot match with cooperatives, because capitalism is where an individual is making money at the expense of majority. But cooperatives is where you bring it together in a group and you gain it together. If there is a gain, you gain it together. If there is a loss, you lose together. So all of that affected the cooperatives. But I'm very happy with the current government that amidst all that happened, the government has been focused and it has adopted the cooperative model. If you can see to date, however much challenges may be there, but the fact remains that the government has adopted the cooperative model. You look at the parish development model, where they are emphasizing the PDM circles. That's a tick on the side of government because they are promoting the model. Much as challenges may come in related to implementation, but the fact is, it is there. Emyoga circles and other cooperatives. And now that is where Uganda Co-operative Alliance comes in as a mother to bridge this gap, working with the government in ensuring that we revitalize the cooperative movement. And that is the journey that we are walking now. I remember in 1990s, for those people who remember very well, it is Uganda Co-operative Alliance working with the government and with support from UNDP. They traversed the whole country, mobilized and sensitized the communities, and established village banks that later transformed from village banks the name to savings and credit cooperative organization, SACCOs. People don't know, they don't read. They hear SACCOs and they think a SACCO has been formed by a member of parliament. No, the idea was gotten from Asia Pacific. Then we brought it here. They started as village banks, and later they became SACCOs. Why change the name? It's because Bank of Uganda was not comfortable using the word bank, because a bank must be regulated. And those village banks were not regulated by Bank of Uganda. So that explains the name from village bank to the other one. That is where you talk of the the establishment of Moyo Sacco, Agaro Sacco, Akaro Sacco. So all these circles that were very strong here, some of them have gotten challenges in areas of governance, but they are still there. They are strong and they are moving on well. Still, when we go to the cooperative unions, a lot has happened. You see, they have been revived. Like Lango Cooperative Union, East Acholi, they are now in business. They are reviving, much as they haven't really reached the point where it is a point where you can really say that they are perfect. But at least there is business and it is moving on very well. Now, to the listeners and the viewers, yes, we can talk about cooperatives, but what is a cooperative? A cooperative ideally means an autonomous association of persons united voluntarily to meet their socio-economic, cultural needs and aspirations through a jointly owned and democratically controlled enterprise. It is owned by members, used by members, controlled by members, and benefiting members. And it is based on 7 international principles. The first one is open and voluntary membership. The second one is democratic member control, followed by member economic participation, followed by autonomy and independence, followed by education, training, and information, followed by cooperation among cooperatives, and lastly, community concern that was added on the other 6 in 1995 under Manchester Congress. So that is the definition, the principles, and the values. And this explains why cooperatives are not companies. They are not associations, but they are formed based on the principles and the values. Now, and this is lacking within our country. A lot of programs have been implemented, especially by government, but the challenge still remains: do people understand cooperatives? And you cannot entirely blame Ugandans. It's because I think the colonials are very smart and deliberately don't want Ugandans and Africans to understand cooperatives. That's why you don't find it in our curriculum. Even the small, I think 2 pages in the commerce textbook are not elaborate enough compared to banking, because they know with banking they will train us and we go there, but with the cooperatives they will bring everybody on board. And this, there is no way you can transform an economy like that of Uganda and elsewhere without the cooperative model, because cooperatives mean, ideally it means cooperation. Cooperation is power. Who doesn't know that cooperation is power? As long as you cooperate, even 2 people can lift a vehicle. You can do anything, you can do wonders as long as there is cooperation. So, and that is why Europe has grown, America is in the skies. You go to Asia Pacific, all these continents, their economies have moved very fast because of cooperatives. We have visited most of these countries in Europe and America. Their economies are based on cooperatives. But when they come to Africa, they teach us capitalism. Why? Because they know capitalism will not favor us, but rather they have their multinationals that are here that will make money for them as they are resting the other side. So it is upon all Ugandans and all Africans. I give an example of Africa because I represent Africa as a vice president on the International Cooperative Agriculture Organization. So because of that, I see what is happening in all countries in Africa. And unless we adopt the cooperative model, I tell you, there is no magic that Africa will use to grow. Instead, we are going to be perpetual beggars. Take an example. You grow your coffee here in Uganda. You can imagine you grow your coffee. 3 years down the road, you start harvesting, but someone is waiting for your coffee seated in Europe. You export your raw coffee at 10,000 Uganda shillings. They just add value and they return it here as Nescafe. A kilogram of Nescafe, if you are to quantify, it is now almost close to 200,000. So you are giving it out at 10,000, but you are buying a finished product, coffee, Nescafe, at all that much. what is the percentage of that profit? So what is it that we can't do? We are created by the same God. We are all human beings. The only solution to that is for the coffee farmers to come together. You become stronger. You have bargaining power. Instead of exporting raw coffee, process your coffee here, export Nescafe. That is the only solution. You got cotton here, and you growing cotton here in Rango and Acholi. How many of you are putting on cotton shirts? So you find the majority of the people who are growing cotton, they export it for those people to put on a good cloth. But we import what? Second hand. So what is that? So in the only solution, please, let's come together like the Banyarwanda say, mwirira mujanya. Come together and we become stronger. So for that matter, with all of these messages across, we have engaged the government, and the government created the subvention. The subvention is financial support or budgetary support to Uganda Co-operative Alliance to move out and sensitize the public. And that explains why today we are here in Acholi land, in Guru City, trying to build the capacities of the commercial officers. Because commercial officers are the foot soldiers on the ground. They are in districts where you cannot reach from Kampala. The commercial officer is there. The district commercial officer, the senior commercial officer, the principal commercial officer, they are all on the ground. But we have realized this through research that they have two issues now. The issue of capacitation and the issue of facilitation. So we have begun with the capacity. Why? In the previous days, you have asked about why cooperatives were very strong. There was a policy that whoever is to work in cooperatives must undergo a cooperative college course in Chigumba, so that you understand these cooperatives better. But to date, a commercial officer is recruited, he is in charge of cooperatives, he is supposed to educate, train, audit and supervise these cooperatives, but lacks the required skills. So it means ideally you are going to a cooperative to learn, not to supervise. So that is why we are here. And we have been very strategic by identifying areas that really these people focus on. Now, the areas that we are focusing on under this capacity building activity is for them to understand the cooperative ideology. What is a cooperative, the principles, the values, and the history, both globally and in this country. From 1761, 14th of March in Scotland, up to today, 2023, we have brought the entire history. So that you know history is the best teacher. You can never excel unless you know where you are coming from. We are also focusing on strategic and business planning. We are focusing on record keeping, financial accounting, and reporting. We are also focusing on governance, cooperative governance and management. We are focusing on the cooperative legal, policy, and regulatory framework. So all of those areas we have focused on them, such that these commercial officers get all of those skills together so that they are able to move down and support these cooperatives, especially these young cooperatives, the PDM circles, Emyoga circles, identify those challenges regarding implementation, such that because these programs are focusing on supporting the smallholders, the farmers, so how best can they support them so that they can support those people that are outside the money economy, especially the 39% they talk of.